Hi everybody, I'm Bill Sanders and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today what I want to do is to have a beginner's introduction to what are the complications on a watch. In order to understand the complication, we have to start with the basic movement. And the basic movement is made up of a series of wheels or gears called the gear train. And at the very far right there, where you have that purple hand, that's the hour hand. And the hour hand, you have below that, you have a barrel, and the barrel is trying to turn because inside of the barrel is the mainspring, and the mainspring is wrapped up. When you wind it, it tightens it up, and it's trying to expand. And this is essentially how the watch works. It works on the expansion of the mainspring. And as you go down the wheel train or the gear train, you have the hour wheel, and then you have a reduction gear between the first wheel and the hour wheel. The first wheel is where you find the minute hand, and the minute hand, shown in that in red there, has to move faster, obviously, than the hour hand because there's 60 minutes to an hour, so it roughly 60 times as fast as the hour hand. And then you go again, the next one down is called the second wheel, which is another reduction gear between the minute hand and the third wheel, which is the second hand. Now, the second hand is moved by the escape wheel. And what the escape wheel is that you have something called a pallet fork. And the pallet fork is, when it moves like this, the escape wheel turns and it's stopped up here, and then it moves again, and then it can escape again. Now, what the escape wheel does, it allows that pressure from the mainspring that's going all the way through the wheel train to move, and starts with the third wheel, first one that it's attached to, and then it moves back up the wheel train or the gear train up to the hour hand. Down at the other end is your balance wheel, and your balance wheel has what's called a hairspring or a balance spring inside of it, and it's kicked around, I think, about 260 degrees by the pallet fork. And the pallet fork, one end of the pallet fork is another little fork, and you have a pin in the sort of the, I guess you'd call it the holder of the balance wheel, which is attached to the hairspring. And what happens is that it kicks it one way, and then when it goes the other way, it kicks it the other way. And the rhythm of that and the time of that allows the pallet fork to unconnect to or let the escape wheel escape a certain amount of notches. Now, depending on they're called VPH, vibrations per hour, but in fact what they really are semi-oscillations per hour. So if you have on let's say 18,000 VPH, that's 1.5 hertz, or up to 4 hertz is probably one of the most common ones, and that does it a lot faster. But still, the gears and everything else has to be related to the rhythm of the hairspring. I don't know if I explained that very well, probably not. But essentially, what you have on one end, you have the barrel with a lot of pressure, and then you have the escape wheel on the other end, and then you have the balance wheel kicking the pallet fork back and forth to release the escape wheel, and that's how the whole thing works. Now, on the one hand, it sounds like that's awfully complex, but on the other hand, it's really very simple. And virtually every watch has something like that in it for the basic movement. And now what I want to take a look at are some of the other elements of the movement, beyond the basic. Now, probably the most popular uh, complication is you have the basic movement, then on top of the basic movement, you can put a chronograph. And what a chronograph is essentially a built-in stopwatch. You can hit one of the pushers on it, and that'll start it, and then you hit another one, that'll stop it, and then you hit another one, and that'll reset it. That's pretty much it. What do you use it for? I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of chronographs because unlike these two, a lot of them are crowded. Here's mine. This is my chronograph. You can see it's got all these subdials and everything. That's typical of a chronograph, and then it's got these pushers on it and so forth. So it's something. A lot of collectors just love their chronographs. Here are two of them right here. The Junghans Max Bill, I probably mispronounced that. In fact, I'm almost certain I did. Is a German watch, and it has an ETA 7750 chronograph movement in it. The caliber J 880.2 uses the ETA 7750, and it costs around $23.50. Fairly economical. Now, this other one, the H. Moser at Sea Streamliner Flyback Chronograph, fabulous one, just fantastic. Now, what the movement inside of that is called the Augengraph, which is a movement for a chronograph movement that was created by a company called Agenor, and the watchmaker is a guy named Jean-Marc Wiederreck. He's one of the top watchmakers in the world, and I think it was 2007. He received the first Watchmaker of the Year from the Grand Prix d'Horlogerie de Genève. So it's a big deal. What he did, he figured out a much simpler way. Rather than having a lot of subdials all over the place, he uses the main dials. Now, once the chronograph is started, he's got two hands. There's a red one and sort of a silver white one. And the red one starts timing the seconds, like on a stopwatch. You start it, and the old thing goes around. The minutes are every time on the chronograph, as the chronograph seconds go around, as soon as it passes the minute hand goes one. So you can, let's say you time something and you look at the final positions of everything, because they both start at the top like this, and then the second hand goes around on the chronograph second hand, kicks the other one over. But look how, it's very clean that dial is. The Junghans is also relatively clean for a chronograph, but my chronograph is more typical with a bunch of little subdials and then the main dial, and it can be hard to read sometime, especially if all you need to know is the time on it. Okay, so that's, like I said, that's the most popular, and it's probably one of the most complex complications you're going to find. Now, the next one is where you have multiple time zones. Now, multiple time zones are the great thing for travelers, and I have two of them here. The Tissot Heritage Navigator Automatic COSC 160th anniversary. Around the dial is all of these different cities representing cities in the 24 time zones around the world. And what you have is that when you pull out the crown just a little, you can move that, and so the city that you're in will come to the top. And or you can have it you can set it at a certain time that you have. For example, this one is showing 10:10, and so if you move the dial around, I'd put it to New York, and then you can see where the other times are all over the world. And it's a world timer, and a very economical one. At $16.50 is the one I found. Great buy. ETA 2893-3 movement inside of it. Tissot is owned by Swatch. And Swatch also owns the ETA movement, so they can have all they want. Now, the other one is called the Parmigiani Toric Hemisphere Retrograde. This watch won an award for the best, I guess, what they call GMT watches and dual time zones. And this one is really very much worth it. I have an older version. It doesn't have the retrograde date on it. It's just got a little date window. And I use it for travel because it's got two things. First of all, you got the sort of the main dial. You can see that. That's where the current time is. And then there's a top dial, and that moves around and has different hours on it. And so I set mine in my hometown. My home time is New York time, and my away time is Geneva or Paris, or because of the 6 hours difference. Here's another one I have that has a called a GMT or a dual time zone. Right up here, this is another time zone. It's the same way it's set to another place. Okay, so I mean that was 22,100. It's a lot, and this is what I'm trying to show us. Some that are very nice, but also very expensive. Others, you can get some really nice ones for not paying a lot of money. That Tissot World Timer is one of my favorite, even though it doesn't cost very much. Now the next one is a moon phase. A lot of people have moon phases. I gotta tell you, I have a moon phase. In fact, I'm wearing it, and it's a fun watch to have, I guess. But watching a moon phase, you might as well watch paint dry because it just sort of, you see the moon and it moves a little, and I don't know. But it's a fun complication. The one on the left is a German watch called the Graf Zeppelin LZ120 Rome Swiss Automatic Moon Phase. It's $985. And so you got a moon phase, a time, and then you have a little date window there for the date. For $985, that's a pretty good deal. It's got a Sellita SW28D movement, and it's got a nice big moon phase window that you can look at on that. Now, sort of one of the tip-top companies that specializes in what they call astronomics is Christian Vanderklaw, and he has one called the Real Moon Journey. This isn't the most expensive one he's got by a long shot, but what it has, it's got a 3D moon, and so this one's also by Christian Vanderklaw. They're famous because they don't have the bottom numbers on it, so you have to sort of figure that out. But you can really see the moon phase. Now, this is just a 2D one. This is a series, 1974. This one is one I'd really love to have. It's about 31,000, almost 32,000 bucks. That's a lot of money. And it's got a CVDK 7382 movement in it. It's a very nice watch for a moon phase. You don't have to pay that much though for a moon phase. Unless you want a 3D one. The one by Graf Zeppelin is much more economical. Okay, now the next one is calendars. The most simple one, I have a little Seiko Mojito up there, and you can see it's got a little date window. And even my chronograph here, it's got one at 4:30 or 4:20. You can't, sort of hard to see there. It's right down, right here. It's a little date window. And it simply has the date. That's probably the simplest and the first complication that someone's going to have. Some people like date windows, some don't. I'm not crazy about it because I have to reset the date. I rotate my watches, and so by the time I rotate back to a watch with a date window, the date is long gone. This triple date, Vacheron Constantin, triple historiques, triple calendar 1942. The watch, I just love the looks of this watch. It's got the day up in the upper left there. It's got the right next to it is the name of the month, September, and then it's got what's called a hand date. There are other names for it, but it's, I think, the oldest term, or was the hand date. See a little. This one's got a little red arrow that goes around. You can see it from 1 to 31, and that's the date. So you read the date from that. I really like hand dates, and I don't have a hand date, so that's the way it goes. The movement in there is a 4400 QC. It's a hand-wound movement. Really excellent movement by Vacheron on Constant 10. Now next to it is a Rolex Day Date. This is one of the most famous Rolexes. And they're all out of gold, white gold or something like that. They're pretty expensive. This one's $40,000. And you have at the top, you have the day of the week, and then you have what they call a Cyclops eye, which is a little magnifying glass over the date. A lot of Rolex owners tell me they're not too happy with that, but I like it because it makes it easy to see. This particular one's white gold. They have it in white gold and yellow gold and platinum and so forth. But I think the 40,000 is about the base price for these. And it's a day date. You can find, by the way, too, with all of these, you can see that Seiko Mojito is $350. You can usually find something with a day date for around that same price too. But it's just part of the mechanical watches. Now, this last one is one I happen to like a lot. It's got a power reserve indicator, and a power reserve indicator basically tells you how much time you have left. The one on the left is by Nomos Glashütte, and it's called the Metro Date Power Reserve. So you know it's a power reserve. Very unusual one. It's got the right below, well, between where it says 60 and 05, you have a little circle. And then you get the little red thing in there. And as the red thing disappears or becomes dominant there, it means you're running out of time before you have to wind it again. It's the hand-wound watch. On the right is an FP Journe Chronomètre Souverain. I have one like this, and they're really great if you like hand-wound watches. The thing about this, and this is I really haven't talked about today, but one of the most important complications is something to make your what's called for constant force. And the way that this particular watch does it, it uses double barrels, and the double barrels sort of help keep that force going down the key, not the keychain, but the gear train to the escapement. And because it's a lot of work, you got to push all those gears, and with two of them working together in parallel, it helps maintain that. But this one also has a power reserve indicator, which is a very interesting one. When you wind it all up, it says 0, and then as you go down, the numbers increase. Now, most power reserve indicators are the opposite of that. But this one, what FP Journe did, he used the method that was used on the old maritime chronographs, and they should be sure to wind the chronograph because they were critical for navigation. And without a correct time, you could get lost at sea. And so what they have is that they have the numbers since it was last wound. So if there's a higher number, you better think about winding your chronograph again, because if that thing is wrong, you can get lost. And just for fun, he did it that way. But a lot of people, most other watches have it the opposite when they have that. Okay, well, those are some of the complications. Those are really I suppose, the pretty basic ones. This is for beginners, but to understand this is that there are lots more complications. But what you have, your basic gear train is your hours, minutes, and seconds. And then anything added to that is considered a complication. Okay, let me know what you think. Let me know if you have some other complications you'd like to talk about. And this is an invitation to subscribe if you like. Until next time, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection.